can't be the only one wearing glasses.
What's that?
I'm the only one who wears glasses. You guys,
Old man glasses.
you young fellas.
We ready to go.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back. To some of you, just a couple of reminders before we get going. As a courtesy to your fellow media members, please silence all your cell phones, and recording press conferences on your cell phones is prohibited. Please provide your name and a media affiliation each time you ask a question during the press conference. We'll have 2 mic runners. Please wait for the microphone to reach you before asking a question. If you're joining us on Zoom today, please use the raise hand function for questions. We will address the questions first in the room, and then take questions from Zoom if time permits. I want to thank everybody for joining us today. I'll do introductions before we get into opening statements. So we have Jay Artigues from the D1 Men's Baseball Committee, Anthony Holman from the NCAA, and Craig Kylitz, the ABCA Executive Director. So starting with Jay, if you'd like to give an opening statement, we'll work our way down.
No, really excited about this week. You know, this is the time I look forward to. The last 4 years have been the funnest 2 weeks of my life. So it's a lot of fun to be here. It's a heck of a group this year, the 8 teams that are coming in. And everybody's probably excited about the different group. First time since 57 that we've had no returners, which we'll get into in a few minutes. But I just want to say really look forward to a great week. And thank y'all for being here for the coverage. The coverage we get these days doesn't compare to how it's been in the past. So thank y'all very much.
Good. All right. Likewise, thanks for coming out and supporting the championship. We're excited to be here in Omaha for the 75th anniversary of the championship being in Omaha. Randy Bohr from our staff will remind you it's the 78th year of the College World Series, but 75 years in Omaha is no small feat, and we are excited to celebrate with our friends here in Omaha. And we'll talk a little bit more about what's going on this weekend and over the next 2 weeks. So thank you.
Well, there's not a better place in the world to be than Omaha, Nebraska at this time of the year. So I think about how much I enjoy this tournament, and I've been here for about 15 or 16, I think, and it seems to get more and more special every year, maybe as I get older, but it's a great place to be in June. Thank you.
Okay, we'll open up the questions. A reminder, state your name and affiliation, and also who you are directing your question towards. Start right up front.
Noah Darling, College Baseball Central. Jay, and to an extent, Anthony. As the committee continues to evolve, you mentioned the growth of college baseball and the coverage of it. It's kind of a weird dynamic when we watch college football give us weekly updates on where the committee stands, and college basketball, a halfway point, they say, here's our top 16 teams. Have you guys considered a midseason update of sorts as, again, this sport continues to evolve?
Yeah, you know, it's funny you asked that question because somebody brought that up, and I think baseball is a little bit different. It's a little bit tough to do that, but it was discussed. It definitely was brought up, and you mentioned the coverage today. I was talking to Craig's dad earlier, and he was talking about when he was in this role, and I told him how much easier I think it is today for us to do this because of y'all. You know, the resources we have, what we're able to see, the information we get from you guys. And also, every game's on the ESPN platform. You know, if you want to watch a baseball game, get on ESPN Plus. And what I want to tip my hat to, I'm looking at Jeremy in the back, committee member from Southern Miss, is they really watched a lot of games. The eyeball test today is really important because you see so many teams from across the country playing each other, but also the structure of the conference tournament now. Everybody doesn't play each other in a lot of the bigger conferences, which makes it challenging. So I think watching it on the ESPN platform and the eye test, I think that helps us, but as far as seeding them halfway through, I think it's a little more challenging in baseball to do that, you know, because of injury to a Friday night starter early in the season compared to late in the season. If you look at all the aspects, it makes it a challenge to do that.
So I'm going to protect them from themselves and try and talk them not into doing that for the reasons he says, but also because you guys are so good at your jobs, right? I don't want you to see that in April and then call me and say, hey, you said 3 weeks ago that so-and-so is the #1 seed. But what we will commit to doing, and I think it's really important, is talking about the metrics that the committee uses earlier in the year, and then let you guys do some assessments to say, hey, based off of what the committee is going to be using right now, this is how that would probably fold out. I think we can do a better job of educating you on what they look at, and then you guys can make your own assessments, you know, weekly.
Go ahead.
I think what Anthony mentioned, the transparency on our part, to let everybody know exactly what you're looking for in that room. Because you got to remember, there's 10 ADs. We're all A-type personalities. We're used to getting our own way in our own campuses. and y'all come in there with different opinions, which is what makes it so special. Guys from the East Coast, West Coast, North, South, and I think the information we're able to get, like Anthony alluded to, was really important.
Hey, Jay, Eric Olson with the Associated Press. This is kind of a what-if question, I guess. There's been a lot of talk already, though, about Arkansas and LSU, a 3 and a 6 national seed meeting in the first round. Would this be a good year for a reseed?
That was discussed at dinner last night, actually, and I think the challenge of that is that's what also makes it so special. When you look at what's going on with Murray State and some of the other teams in this field, reseeding has always been discussed, but this year it won't be. It's a little too late for this year, but I think it may be something they do at least talk about, no question about it. This year kind of brought that to the forefront.
Can I have a follow-up question? He knows a lot about baseball. If you were to reseed, would you suggest it based off of the entire season body of work, or just from the regionals through the end?
Throw it back at it, baby.
Yeah.
That's a great question.
After the Super, so really, you got a sample size of 2 or 3 games potentially. All right, I don't agree with that. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Howard Borden, Borden Broadcasting, ACBA and Omaha. Welcome back, everybody. 75 years, hard to believe. It gets better and better. Question for all of you. There was an article in the news maybe a week or a week and a half ago where in basketball, they're considering to grow the sport and the popularity by maybe looking at more inclusive games to get to the basketball tournament. We are at that 64 point as we have whatever the metrics are going to be with the committees evaluating teams around the country. Some conferences internally are more powerful. Other ones have to schedule in non-con, knowing that they may not have a chance to go as deep, have to schedule some games early on in anticipation of how deep big conferences go. So the question is, are we at a point where we could have some excitement, where we would have some teams playing in to get into the tournament? Thank you.
Jay, if you want to start, and then
Yeah, I'll start that. So you're asking if we should expand the field, and there's always discussion about that. As far as excitement, would it bring excitement? I don't know if there's any more excitement that could be in college baseball today. But to your point, there's a lot of factors that go into that. One's TV, and Anthony's a lot smarter than I am, and he'll tell you a little bit more about the TV aspect of it. I love expanding it, coming from a mid-major school. If you see the success of Murray State's and some of the other mid-majors around the country right now, it shows they can play with the big boys. And look, it's always a challenge. Do you take a 12th or 13th place team in SEC versus a mid-major? That's always going to be an argument. It's always going to be a challenge. Even if we expand it, am I in favor of personally? Yes, I am personally. But there's so many aspects that I don't even think about, like the TV, and like the cost aspirations of it. So from a perspective of that, it makes it a little challenge. From a personal perspective, I love it. It definitely has pros and cons, though, no question.
I'm going to pass and let Craig go first. I'll come back, Howard, but I'm going to pass. Let Craig answer first.
Yes. Yeah. No, I would love to have us look at it. That I don't know if we'd have a play-in aspect because there's just not that time available to do that. But we have a really special tournament, and it's like a great restaurant, and they expand, and then all of a sudden things fall apart on them. That's something we always need to be very cognizant of. But I'd love to see more teams in, because I think there's teams that are deserving to be in that fit in the field and would do well in the field. I don't think it's just an additional type teams. These are teams that belong in. So I hope that we continue to evaluate that.
All right. I thought that would be the answers from those guys, and I don't disagree from a personal aspect. From the vice president of championships hat lens, I don't know what the value proposition is to that, right? And we've got a very robust championship. Our broadcast partners do a tremendous job. We're fortunate to have the coverage that we have. Anytime you add something to it, you run the risk of, to Craig's point, messing up the recipe a little bit. And the last part of this, and full transparency, we lose money on regionals, right? So the proposition of not garnering additional revenue to offset expenses and just adding to expenses in this day's economic landscape doesn't make a whole lot of business sense.
We stopped caring about finances a few months ago.
Yeah, apparently. Yeah.
Noah Bieniek of 11.7. I would like to add my input to Anthony's question. Murray State, the 4 seed in this field of 8 in Omaha, they go to Ole Miss, an SEC host. They beat them 2 of 3. They knock off Georgia Tech, who won the regular season in the ACC. Then they visit Duke and take games 2 and 3. Reseeding in favor of LSU and an Arkansas, an LSU team who had to play a 4 seed 3 times in their regional, maybe a little bit of a softer draw, maybe reward Murray State for paving their path and possibly making that a weaker part of the Omaha 8. But overall, my question would be, the big storyline this weekend is the diversity of the 8 teams in Omaha. What are your guys' opinion on the 6 different conferences that we see, also Oregon State as an independent as well?
Craig, if you want to lead it.
I love it. You know, part of my job as the executive director of the ABCA is promoting baseball, and I don't think we could promote it any better than we have. And I'm probably as surprised as a lot of people as this proliferation of money has followed its way down to say that it might not be possible. But I think it's absolutely remarkable. I think it's going to be interesting. I think it's going to be highly watched and followed. So I don't think we could have scripted it any better. So I'm excited to see how it plays out.
I think it's tremendous, right? And I think this is a great example of young people playing for the name on the front of the jersey and not the name on the back of the jersey, and that's evident there. So yeah, there's tons of money. We know we're talking about NIL deals and all the other stuff, but this is a great example of 9 people on a field making a difference in doing it, right? And that's more than it takes in basketball, just 2 and less in football. The point I'm trying to make is money doesn't always drive competition. So I think the model isn't broken necessarily. I think this is an exciting thing for us to be encouraged about and not discouraged about, because there's still lots of parity and opportunities for teams to be successful.
Yeah, and to go off of that, if you look at what Murray State, if you heard his interview when he talked about we really focus on what we have and what we instead of what we don't have, I think the mid-majors having success, they found the formula. You know, because the Arkansas, the LSUs, and the Georgias of the world, they're going to have the premier 18, 19-year-olds in the country. No question about it. They can't get old because their 18, 19-year-olds are signing after their 3rd year. So they heading out where a mid-major to compete against them is going to have a good 22 or 23-year-old. You put a good 22, 23-year-old against a really good 18-year-old, it evens the field. And I think the mid-majors that are having success are all older. You look at what Southern Miss did this year, their 4th, 5th-year team. That's why they kicking the crap out of some of the P4 teams. I think the formula, the schools that understand that, mid-major-wise, look at Little Rock. Chris Curry did a tremendous job, an older team. The older mid-majors can compete against the really talented P4s, and that's what you're seeing right now.
Jake McKeever, College Baseball Central. This one's for you, Craig, as you probably talk to more coaches than anybody. How is the consensus on the increase in scholarships from 11.7 up to the 30s?
Well, we're nervous and ecstatic all at the same time. I think, you know, we've fought to get a couple more scholarships to possibly have 15 someday. And now to go to 34 maximum is incredible. But there's some things that have to happen along with that. And I keep reading negative stuff after negative stuff after negative stuff, but I'm an internal optimist, and I think we're getting to a spot right now where we can figure out what's happening with our sports. And baseball is just one of many, so they're all going through this. But we got some incredible opportunities right now, and it's up to us, all the ADs, the commissioners, certainly the NCAA, the law firms that are involved in it to make it work. We got to stop pointing the finger and make it work. And so I think our coaches are all on board to say, okay, what is our roster? What does it look like? How many can we have in the fall? How does this transfer portal work? So we can continue to do the things that we do, and that's to build character with young men and women and the educational effort and so forth. But all of that's been lost in this whole cluster of lawsuits. I mean, it's crazy. But now we are where we are, and we need to make it work. And I'm bullish that we are going to make it work.
Yeah, and to go off of that, she was saying, I think it's you have to be creative and make it work, especially at the smaller size schools, but just figuring that out. I remember when NFL started free agency, everybody said it's going to kill the NFL. Well, it didn't, and it's thriving like it is. I think it's the same with college baseball. People are like, well, NIL is going to kill college baseball, college athletics. It's not. It's just you got to change. You have to adapt. The teams that are doing that, like Craig alluded to, are going to be the ones succeeding. So just embrace it and figure it out, because right now it's definitely a moving target. But it's something as administrators we have to figure that part out. Great question.
Mark Garland, College Baseball Central. Start with Anthony, then Craig and Jay. You guys can add in on this as you want. Have we thought about moving the transfer portal date? I know that we've had coaches in the regionals and super regionals, and they've had a hard time having to have special hotel rooms where they take these phone calls because kids are already in the transfer portal before they even get going. Have we thought about moving it to the end of the season so these guys can play out the whole season before they start having to look for the new roster?
Yeah, I think that's a really fair question. What we're seeing is a model. There's a group working on it's called the Division I decision-making working group, right? And they are making some recommendations about the new normal around Division I. And one of those things may be we can't have universal days for all sports, right? So we may move to this model where there's oversight committees for each sport, and they may establish their own. I think that's probably a direction we may see, and that probably makes the most sense for those sports.
Yeah, and if you remember years ago, the draft was going on while the College World Series was going on, and that was changed. So I do think, yes, I think that's something to definitely look into. So, valid point.
Time for one more question.
Yeah, Craig, Eric Olson with the Associated Press. Dan McDonald said that you might have this for us. Have you taken any surveys on what the scholarship offerings are going to be, like school to school? How many are going to offer 34? How many 25? How many under 20?
Mm-hmm. I don't think the schools know what they're going to offer right now. I think as they work through this, they're trying to figure it out. The athletic director's position's always been difficult. I don't know if it's ever been more difficult than it has been right now, because the uncertainty, all the different budgets, and the different people pulling at them and trying to find that money to make it work. So I don't know where we are, but I do know we'll be better than 11.7 at most of the schools, and I do think that we'll have a lot more closer to 30, 34 than we will at 25, which is incredible. And so we'll see how it plays out. But I don't think anybody has any idea right now, or doesn't have a great idea, and they're not keeping it from you. It's just, we just don't know where they're at right now.
That concludes today's press conference. I want to thank you, all three of you, for taking the time to do this. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you guys for
guys.
coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Great series.
Good job, buddy.
Hammond Communications will post a recording